You need to build yourself up to have the confidence to be the person whose information you listen to. You're listening to everybody else, but how much time do you spend listening to yourself? How much time do you actually have conversations with yourself about your personal development and leveling up? Most people, not often enough. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. I have the privilege to do that, because when you're on hustle mode, it's very hard to kind of reset your mind. But if you have enough money, right, when all you need is enough money to be able to focus on yourself full time. Like, what would happen if for 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, the focus of your day, your job, was to level up? That would be amazing. That would be unbelievable. You'd be ahead of your competitors. You'd be ahead of your potential, what would you say, enemies, I would call it, or business rivals. You're going to have so many advantages on a personal level, on a business level, on an intellectual level, and you're going to see things from a bigger perspective. So if you can beat yourself and you can win and conquer self, you can conquer everything.
So what is that, when you say level up, right? Let's say, okay, I've become successful enough, I've made enough money, I have time to spend on myself. I need to know what that means to level up, right? What does that actually look like on a day-to-day basis? You're stretching a lot now. I know you eat very well, but what does that mean? Getting smarter, getting more knowledgeable, consuming more data sets?
It's becoming an intuitive individual, a person that's in tune and is present in every action that they take. Like, why do you do what you do? And what conscientious life, and you ask yourself, why do I eat this donut? Or why do I watch this video? And you actually start realizing that many of the things that we do are ludicrous. And if you can have that self-conversation should be the motivator to push you to get to the next level. And a lot of people's self-talk is very negative. And the reason it's negative is because they don't trust themselves. And of course you can't trust yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror and you look like you look at your bank account, you feel like shit. You go to bed, you sleep 8 hours, you wake up tired, right? You go to a job that you hate. You're in a relationship that you don't enjoy to be in. So what in your life is pushing you to be motivated and to win? No wonder your mind is like, nah, I can't trust you, because everything in your life that you're doing is self-sabotage. So what you have to do is you have to start accumulating small wins. You have to start waking up on time. You have to start eating clean. You have to start cleaning around you. You have to start exercising. You have to start listening to positive messages and not listening to all this bull music from the system. Start listening to some classical music. Start listening to some, some lo-fi. Start listening to something that has frequencies that literally elevate your spirit. But we're out here listening to all this garbage, and then we wonder, why is it that our life is so So do the simple things right. Build the foundational building blocks of your life, and then everything else can be built upon it. And I think that people always want the 10 best tips of this, the 10 best tips for the fastest whatever. This is going to be the best exercises for 2023. No, just do the fundamentals. Focus on doing the fundamentals well. And once you do the fundamentals well and you master them, and that takes years. And I'm still in the process of mastering and understanding the fundamentals myself. But once I have that foundation, that base, I'm indestructible. Okay,
let me ask you this. What are the most obvious self-sabotage things that the average person does?
Great question, brother. Food. People eat like they don't know what they're eating, right? So I was talking with Brett yesterday. I was telling him how 50, 60 years ago, chronic illnesses in adults were about 7%. Today's over 60% of adults in America have chronic illnesses. So what happened? And that's the journey you have to go through of, is cancer normal? Is me getting a tumor normal? Is me having Alzheimer's normal? Is me having dementia normal? And you start breaking down why things actually happen, and you realize, whoa, hold up. The food that I'm eating isn't healthy. The water that I'm drinking is poisonous. The toothpaste that I have full of fluoride and alcohol is absolutely destroying my teeth and destroying my system, right? The fluoride in the water is poisonous. It's calcifying my pineal gland, and it's up my mental receivers of information. People are dumb. They're like, all day. It's unbelievable. But they're being dumbed down by the food. That's the first one. The second one is social media. And it's ironic because people are going to be watching this on social media. If you can become a connoisseur of your feed and not allow the algorithm to control you and understand how to curate your content, that's one thing. But a lot of people are led by the algo, and the algorithm is designed for addiction. These companies, they bring in psychologists, right, to create systems and create actions that cause addiction. For example, you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram and you swipe down, right, and it does the motion like this, right? It's to mimic the casinos. When you go to the casino, luck, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit. Dude, how many times a day? Like a lab rat.
It's classical training.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So once you understand the nature of why things happen, you begin to understand that the media around you, what you're being told, they're narratives that are curated by other people. And your goal is to figure out, why is this person saying what they're saying? Not what are they saying, but what's the intention behind what they're saying? What is the goal, the objective? And get to know the character behind the message and not trust people so much. Don't even trust us. Do your own research. When people look at my content sometimes on TikTok, I get screenshots sent to me by my team where people are like, source, trust me, bro. Bro, source, don't trust me. Do your own research. That is your source. So just because I'm giving you an opinion, it's simply an opinion on my perspective, my worldview. That's going to be a data set for you, whether you like it or not. Take it or leave it. I don't give a f. It is what it is. So we're being poisoned through the food. We're being poisoned through our minds. We're being poisoned through the system. And then finally, I think we're being poisoned with the entire narrative of what it actually means to be a man, what it means to be a good entrepreneur, what it means to live a life of purpose. You know, I think a lot of people wake up and they don't know why they do what they do. They don't really have a purpose. No wonder you're depressed, right? You have no meaning. But you can attribute yourself meaning by doing things that are bigger than yourself. And that requires self-belief, which goes back to the small actions. So those are things that I see that are complicated, but that I believe that if people can establish them as solid pillars in their life, they could be in a better place.
I have something else I'm going to ask you, but first I'm going to look right at this camera and reinforce something he just said, which is that you're talking about dopamine, right? You get a lot more dopamine from getting advice than you do from taking steps to act on it. So I know it's a little bit ironic that we sit on camera and are like, don't listen to people, just do it. The most important you can do if you watch this video is go do one thing that we talk about in this video. Go do one thing and you're ahead of 99% of the population.
And that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is why I don't like to talk, is because when you talk, you release dopamine regarding your goals, right? So if you say, oh, I'm going to do this, you are releasing the dopamine of that potential experience. So you get high on dreaming.
Telling people what you're going to do instead of doing it.
You get off on dreams.
We know people make careers out of it.
So your goal is to transcend that, to shut the up.
Lead by example.
And to level up.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have to ask you this too, because going on this journey, there's a number of questions that people are going to have, and the fastest way I think to get people there is to answer them straight on the head. And I bet Brett asked you this yesterday when you were talking. So what if I'm watching this video and I say, oh, but Luke, you talk about no fast food, no more Chipotle. Alex Hormozi built a $100 million business, and he talks about eating Chick-fil-A and Chipotle every day. So can I just eat like eat myself like be successful anyway?
Yeah, if you're trying to be Alex Hormozi. I'm not trying to be Alex Hormozi, and I think his content is great, but I'm not him. So you just have to figure out what is yours and what isn't for you, right? So I have this principle of take the meat, leave the bones. Instead of just throwing everything away because you disagree on some points, the man has massive value to offer. So in that situation, it would be more so understanding that he has a different philosophy on a different area of life. So be it. And that's okay. So it's understanding what you want of life and figuring out who you want to emulate and what heroes you want to embody. And each one have different habits and different outcomes in life. You just have to piece what you like, and based off of that, you curate your ideal human.
I want to go back to something you said earlier, because it's a word that you use, and I think people, every time you say it, people are like, what is a peasant? What does that really mean?
I mean, if you just look up peasant, it means a working man. So it's the working class. Now, the working class hasn't changed ever since this idea of peasant was established, which was during feudalism, right? The peasants were the working class that the feudal lords would basically let them work on the field to feed themselves, and the rest would go into storage or be sold. Basically what happens today. You go, you work, you get a little bit to feed yourself, right? And then you're in a situation where you have to give back to the king through taxes, right? So you're left with half, and then you have debt, and then you have inflation, right? So you barely meet paycheck. 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, or in fact are even in debt. So now you're in a situation whereby the system is attacking you 24/7. You're like, whoa, is this by design, or is this just how it's supposed to be? And then you realize that the system is created by people, and people create the system with rules. But everything that is man-made can be broken, just like hacking into a website. People hack into the rules, hack into the laws. You don't think there's lawyers out here, judges out here passing policy that is convenient for them? The think this is heaven? No, it's not. It's the real world. People cheat on a Monopoly board. You don't think they're going to cheat in the real life when there's billions and trillions of dollars on the line? What type of reality do you live in, peasant? Because you don't understand how the game is played. You are sitting where you deserve to be. So if you want to level up, you want to understand how the world works, you can't do the things that peasants do. You can't do the things that the working class does. The working class was illiterate. The working class ate unhealthy. The working class was unsanitary. The working class focused so much on working that they couldn't focus on leveling up. So I think you can transition, but it's good to have a reality check of where you currently stand, because the first step to solving a problem is realizing that there is one. And most people aren't willing to realize that they've been fooled their entire life because they feel stupid. So Mark Twain says it's easier to lie to somebody than to convince them that they've been lied to. And that's because there's ego. So get your ego out of the way, become a student of life, and level up the video game character. It's pretty straightforward, G.
A lot of what you talk about when we speak revolves around this idea of misconception or even misunderstanding of the world around the average individual. So what do you think is the biggest, widely most accepted lie that 99% of the people watching this video believe about their own lives right now?
That your identity is found in your failure. I think a lot of people fear failure because they believe that their identity is based on their actions. So when your identity transcends who you are and what you do, you begin to have freedom to f*** up and to mess up and to treat life like a lab and experiment and test things and break things. That's how you level up. Like we're here in Breckenridge, right? If you literally go to the mountains, and I said it on my vlog, I said life is very much like snowboarding. When you're up in the mountain, it doesn't matter what type of gear, famous, bullshit flexing you have. Either you have the experience through getting f***ed up by the mountain, or you're gonna learn. But the question is, what are the mountains in your life that you need to conquer, right? That you need to go down, that you need to get f***ed up in order to level up. And the better you become snowboarding by practice and repetition and getting f***ed up and getting hurt and getting back up and getting back up. And it's a sport of very much learning and learning and learning, constantly adapting, constantly moving. And if you can take that principle and apply it to life, then life now becomes very much like a mountain. It's very fun. You can cruise it and understand that f***ing up is okay, because it's going to allow you to grow and to level up and become your fullest potential.